Hello, everyone, to those just joining, to people who have been waiting, and everyone watching things back on the VOD, whether it's here on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on when you're watching this. Hello, welcome to another stream, and it is once again Sunday, which means it is Game Dev Sunday day, thingamajig, whatever you call it, but I just call it Game Dev Sunday. So last week, my main focus, going off of memory, my main focus was trying to sort stuff out with like actually wanting to test the rat model that I made for the player character, the one that I made many months ago that I haven't entirely finished yet. It was fully rigged, aside from some small hiccups that I found, kind of weird, and it was certainly a journey trying to sort things out because of the numerous issues that I ran into trying to sort things out. But in the end, we got it to work. We created an anim blueprint or anim instance that specifically works with the player character class. We made a custom anim BP from that, and we now have things animated. Some slight changes. Oh, hi, Angel. Way to announce your presence here today. There are one or two little changes that I made since then. I've been fairly busy, so I haven't been able to work on things too much, since last Sunday. But, if I go to the player, and into the rats anim blueprint, if you can remember if you were here last week, if not, then I'll quickly explain. Originally, in this landing animation, in this landing state, I had this landing animation, which, for some reason, from when I was retargeting the animation to, from the original mannequin to the rat, it would just end up sort of flipped on its side, which was very weird. And honestly, it was off-putting because every single time the player would land, they would essentially disappear for a moment before reappearing. However, a thing that I just decided to do instead, as a means of, one, avoiding this little hassle and trying to sort out a landing animation of my own, and two, somewhat emulating what some characters did back in the PS1 era, at the very least in the case of Spyro and a few others, where they didn't have a landing animation, they would just land and sort of go back to their idle animation. I essentially took the first frame of the idle animation, or I duplicated the idle animation, cut it down so it was just specifically the singular frame at the start, because I couldn't do it without a landing state. And the reason for this is, in the event that I removed the landing state in particular, and had no landing animation and had it go straight to locomotion, whenever the player would jump, they would not play the jumping animation at all. They would still play the running animation. For some reason, it's so weird. I don't know why it does it. It just happened. So now, instead of playing the landing animation, I'm just going to quickly show off. It just goes back to the idle animation after that singular frame. And the same happens if I was to stop moving in the air and then land and whatnot. Which works perfectly. It works perfectly well for stuff, which I'm pretty happy with. Also, I sorted out the ears. They actually move with the player now, instead of just kind of floating there while the player rocks their head from side to side, which I'm pretty happy with. And what that required was that, although things were attached for the new FNAF characters, do not. But anyway, although the ears were attached to the player, oh yeah, the eyebrows still need to be sorted out, but I can sort that out another time. But although the ears are, parented to the actual model, because they're part of the model itself, one, of course, I did make bones for the ears in particular. However, the thing that I should have done as well in instant was also unparent the armature and then reparent it with automatic weights, so that it would guarantee that, oh, the ears are not just going to float there alongside the player as they're running, it will actually move with the player. It's a bit of an explanation, but in short, there wasn't like any weight being applied to the ears in the animations, and because of that, they were just kind of, you know, they didn't just have any sort of like physics being like applied to them within the animation itself, so that was kind of weird. But I sorted that out, the ears move. I still need to sort out the eyebrows eventually, but I can get to that later down the line. But aside from that, not much else has happened. I have mostly been doing some learning bits about like the Unreal's gameplay ability system and some stuff with transmitting information from, say, a character to the UI and whatnot, as you do. In terms of what I eventually want to try and get to within that online course I'm learning, I do want to get to the point where I can understand how to save the player state, because if you can recall, then that's good, but if not, then I can quickly explain things again for people who may not know or may not remember. So, just a moment, I'll switch to Rider. I don't have the player state open at the moment, but... whoops. So... So, where is it? It's in public. State, and now open them both. If you can remember from what I did for the player state, I made a T-map for both the fruit collectibles and the cheese collectibles, which is what the collectibles will eventually be. And basically, whenever like a collectible is picked up, one, it will increase the number of fruit that is, or when you pick up the fruit, it will increase the number of fruit that is held, or if you pick up the cheese, it will increase the number of cheese that's held, but also it will add the object, like whether it's a cheese or a fruit, to their respective T-map, and that essentially registers it that, oh, this thing has been collected. And the reason why I've done this, just to explain things again, is because whenever we reload the level, we want to check, oh, does this object ID already exist within the T-map that's stored on this? If it does, then we don't want to make it possible for the player to pick it up again. We don't want it to appear, we just want it to disappear, so we just do that. Otherwise, just, you know, let it appear normally, or, you know, just don't hide it at all, because it would just be a case of, oh, if this has already been picked up, we just hide it, and that's about it. That's all we'd have to do. However, the one thing that I don't have at the moment is persistence, or data persistence for this player state. I don't know how to save it at the moment, and sure, I could essentially just do, I could essentially look it up and just say, oh, this is how you would save something within the engine. And I know I could possibly just look into a rough one for the time being, and then, you know, whenever I need to properly expand things around the gameplay ability system, do things that way, and I'm pretty sure it will just save stuff anyway, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I'll keep that on the list as like a little stretch goal for today, because I'm not too sure. I also need to open the right thing on sticky notes, because at the moment, I have sticky notes open for like modded Minecraft server stuff, and like making notes of like rift coordinates for the dimensional doors mod, coordinates for the nether portal so I don't get lost, and all that jazz. Also, by the way, modded Minecraft, getting back into it, fun stuff. Except for when you're playing the Ice and Fire mod and the dragons just decide, oh hey, we can see you now, we're going to kill you. So, that kind of stuff is stuff that I've been dealing with again. But yeah, that stuff's always fun. Anyway, I've got the list, so I didn't actually need to remake the rig for the model if I look at my list, so I'll just remove that from the list. Changes for later on. Oh yeah, one thing I remember now. One thing I was trying to do in the past, and we have witnessed me attempt this in the past on stream, is trying to adjust the frequency at which, you know, checks are made for wall sliding. And the reason being is that although it's not, you know, actively done all the time, it would be a lot more performant if I managed to find a way to do it, you know, not at the rate of literally every single tick within, like, a frame. Like, literally every single tick within a frame, every single, like, frame within a second and so on. So, what I was hoping to do at that point was try and, instead of using the tick function to do it, I was going to try using a timer to do it as well. And for a time, I thought it was going to work. However, hold on. Let me just check, because that doesn't... Hold on. Properties. Yeah. Veto tube. Where are you? Just checking things. What's it set to? Yeah, it's set to my microphone. Cool. Right. I thought something was happening. That was weird. Anyway, because of how infrequent it was when using a timer, it would just drop the player from the wall slide, and that it didn't produce the effect that I wanted. So, I do want to attempt that again, because making things more performant and less likely to reduce overall frame rate is something that I want to keep in mind when working on this project, because that's the ideal solution, making sure that things don't do too much within, like within every frame or every second or so on, rather than just, you know, have everything just like check for so much all the time, and then as a result of so many things doing that, it just kind of starts to break at that point, if that makes sense. Interesting, like, so alongside, like, me getting back into modded Minecraft, there has been, like, an influx of, like, small, like, videos of, oh, these are, like, features that would have been in Minecraft, but they were removed, or they were never considered and stuff. And this is an interesting thing, because, this is gonna be, like, an example of a feature that was kind of, like, that was originally present in very early versions of Minecraft, but was cut due to the fact that, oh, it was not very performant. It wasn't, you know, very good. So, I don't know how I messed up that badly. I've messed up already. I'm not drawing the whole thing, I'm just going to draw the head. Okay, creepers. Cool. So, creepers. Everyone knows them. Everyone who has played Minecraft, or has at least heard of Minecraft, knows what these are. Very early on in Minecraft's development, at one point, mobs used to run away from creepers when they were about to explode. Like, even the hostile mobs. So, like, say you had, like, the creeper here, you had like a zombie here, a skeleton here, so on and so forth. When the player got near the creeper and started to explode, what used to happen very early on in Minecraft's development is that any hostile mob within a radius of the creeper that's about to explode would run away to, you know, basically avoid being hurt, which is a cool little thing. Like, a cool little thing that I do like in games is when enemies do react to other enemies in a way, like doing certain actions. The Spyro games have a good example of, like, enemies interacting with one another, in a sense. Rather than just, you know, basic standard, oh, enemies of different factions, they're just going to hurt each other. Like, you know, not stuff like that, but specific interactions. This isn't like a specific, like, interaction between a mob and another mob, but this is just a case of, oh, this is actually them, you know, self-preservation type stuff, which is pretty cool. I like this kind of stuff. However, the reason why this was cut, and like, this is something I had learned, like, within the past few days and whatnot, is because rather than, like, you know, check every so often to see if there was, like, a creeper exploding within their general radius, every mob would constantly check if, like, for an exploding creeper within a radius every single frame. So, like, regardless of whether or not it was happening, every single mob would check for a creeper exploding within every single frame. And because every mob was doing this every frame, basically every frame, every second, it caused major performance issues. So in the end, because of how much it negatively impacted performance, basically it was just removed for that very reason, which is kind of sad because it was a neat little detail. But, you know, of course, because of stuff like that, because it was just like every single conceivable frame, it was just a major performance issue, and because of that they removed it so that it wouldn't cause, you know, frame rates to dip exponentially. But yeah, that's on the subject of, like, the reason why, or this isn't like the exact reason why, this me trying to make sure that things do not happen all the time, every single frame, was not spurred on by Minecraft specifically, but this is an example of just, you know, making sure that things are optimized. Like, if there's one thing that I do want to take seriously when working on this, it's optimization, and that's kind of present in some areas, such as the lack of the dynamic lighting and shadows. At the very least here, in the bloody... I guess, in a way, I could just disable shadows in the test level. I could quickly do that just to see if that's possible, because at the very least, a lot of things with lighting and shadows, and if they're not, like, static, if they're dynamic stuff, then a lot of the time that just causes problems with performance, because, you know, it, depending on whether or not a light is moving or not, shadows would have to constantly be recalculated, their angles, their strength, and everything needs to be recalculated based on, well, where the current position of a light in relation to an object that casts a shadow. And what I want to avoid is just having the, you know, all of these dynamic lighting things casting shadows and doing stuff because... Oh, wait. Right, so it does affect world. So cast shadows is not a thing. I don't know what that does. However, I think the main issue here is just the material that's used here. And I can't I mean, in a sense I can, but at the same time, if I edit this material that's used as like the default for these brushes and their faces and whatnot, then it won't just change it for this project, but it will change it for all other projects that use this material, because this is just a material that exists within the engine. Which, yeah, I wish I could just, like... Wait, hold on. White. It was temp white. You know, like, annoyingly so, like... I can't apply this universally across an entire shape. It has to be, like, for some reason, on individual faces, and I don't know why it does this. And I know it's like, you know, this is just binary, this is just BSP brushes, this is just used for, like, blocking out levels, this is the thing that you replace with whatever assets that you use in a full level eventually, at the very least. But at the same time, if I'm wanting to demonstrate that I want to, like, not have dynamic lighting and shadows, then at the very least, I want to be able to edit, like, this thing, this material, so it doesn't, or just swap it out for the material that I want to use, because it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying. It's not the end of the world at the very least, but it is just a little bit annoying. So I'm not going to do that, but hold on, let me think. Main thing I want to do. Main thing I want to do today. Oh yeah, so I don't have a main thing that I specifically want to focus on, but there are small little things that I want to try and get done today. Sorry for the very, 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 very long tangent on just like a multitude of different things that kind of like what either was on my mind or was just kind of related to whatever I was rambling on about. But yeah, I do want to properly add contact damage, because at the moment, if I was to go back into the third person test or level environment, so third person maps, third person map, I'm just going to save that, although there was no real point in saving what changes I made there, but oh well. If I was to just like run into this enemy, like, nothing happens. Of course, there's no, like, knockback animation anyway, but, or just knockback in general, but there's no, like, oh, you've been hit, or there's no flickering for the player just to sort of, like, indicate that, oh, they're currently invincible because they've been hit. Now, one thing I need to remember, and in a sense, like, this is not just like a Spyro thing, but this is just like a general, like, PS1 era type deal thing that I'm trying to think. Is whether or not, like, iframes would have been considered back then, or if it was just like, oh, they're hit moment, they're knocked back, and then if they're just, like, walking into an enemy again, then they're just getting hit again. I might... Because I was doing this to check some things for the landing animation the other day. I was checking... Like, if you can remember, from months ago when I did it, I streamed like a playthrough of like the original PS1 Spyro 3 because I was feeling nostalgic. I wanted to go back to it. I wanted to show people one of my favorite games growing up in its original form, not in the Reignited trilogy, even though I love the Reignited trilogy a bunch. I just wanted to show off like the PS1 era for Spyro, because I wanted people to recognize that charm that I'm trying to emulate with this project, which I feel like eventually, later down the line, once I have everything all sorted, it can look amazing. It can look like a very good representation of things. However, that aside, I went back to the emulator that I used for it, because I wanted to check the stuff with the landing animation, because I couldn't remember how they would have done it, and then that's when I learned that for the most part in that era they just didn't have a landing animation depending on the game. So that was why I decided to do this. But I may quickly boot it up again, like, of course not on the stream, just to quickly check a thing. I want to check how contact damage was handled, because when I have a better idea of that, then I will know a little bit more about how I want, like, whether or not iframes are a factor or something like that. If I can remember from Crash Bandicoot, the original Crash Bandicoot, I know that iframes were a factor. As far as I can remember, like, getting hit while you have an Aku Aku mask did result in, like, iframes for, like, a little bit of a moment before you were able to be hit again. And normally just getting hit once in Crash without an Aku Aku mask would essentially result in losing a life. That's essentially what happened. But in the case of Spyro, I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not iframes were a thing, whether or not there was like a flickering effect when Spyro got hit, or anything else like that. So, also, oh wait, what? That's odd. BP projectile finish spawning actor. Oh, that's odd. Oh, I think this is... Oh, yeah, this is from when I actually... Right, because it destroys the actor, actually, and then because of that, it's causing... Oh, right, that makes a bit more sense. Anyway, I want to quickly check things regarding this, because the more understanding I have of how different games handle it, the better I can just kind of decide, you know, this is going to work. But yes, in terms of that, like, for contact damage, and I guess just damage in general, depending on what source it's from, so contact damage, I should probably actually just write it as damage rather than DMG, because it makes it sound like, oh, contact DMG, as in like the guy from Bungie, but no. Contact damage, I'd want it to be in a few steps. So say, for example, like, this is the player. They're walking towards this thing. I'm gonna make it like a spike with a hat on it to represent an enemy. This looks kind of goofy. They walk into it. They get hit. When they walk into it, they get knocked back a little bit of a distance. In this case, I'm exaggerating things, so like they get knocked back quite a bit. And then, depending on how I look at things, either I want the player to flicker as, like, after they're hit, which indicates, oh, iframes currently, or I want the knockback to be substantial enough. So knockback is substantial enough. So knockback is substantial to prevent another immediate hit. And what I mean by this is that when the player walks into the enemy, I don't want them to just immediately be able to walk back into the enemy again and just take another instance of contact damage, because that's kind of messed up. That wouldn't be fair on the player. So, in the event that I don't go down the route of having iframes and temporarily ignoring, or like temporarily ignoring like contact damage from the enemy, and the way I do that is that I'd probably have to, I'm trying to think, I'd probably have to, like, with the object channels, briefly just set the channel that the player is on, like the collision profile, to ignore collision events with specific objects, and that being the enemies, and then just, you know, have the flickering done that way, and then after a few seconds just re-enable it. You know, stuff like that. But yeah, enough of me rambling on. I'm gonna quickly, as I said, I'm gonna quickly run my check with the emulator just to see exactly how Spyro handled this. Okay, right, perfect. I had a state loaded, so bear with me a few moments while I sort this thing out. This shouldn't be too long of a thing for me to sort out, but you never know. At the very least, I'm glad nothing can hear, as far as I'm aware, nothing can hear what I'm doing right now. So, just gonna do this little check quick, and then we're gonna figure things out. As I said, just running this check. I'm gonna figure things out. I mean, I know I could just, like, go back into the first thing, and, you know, that's a thing I could do, but just gonna quickly run this check. And then once I have more of an idea of what I'm gonna do, then we'll move forward with it. So, okay, never mind. Okay. Alright, I now know. I now know. So, unlike most games where, you know, they have contact damage for running into enemies, well, most platformers where they have contact damage for running into enemies and the like, Spyro is a bit different, because, so if we were to look at Spyro 3, for example, I'm also going to put a question mark here now, because this is going to be kind of a thing that's up in the air. So, if we look at Spyro 3, so I'm not good at drawing Spyro from, you know, memory. I'm just gonna do this. So, I'm gonna have this upside down triangle be an enemy, for example. Spyro is moving towards it, and then Spyro moves into the enemy, and basically nothing happens. And you may be confused, and trust me, honestly, like, thinking about it is a little confusing. However, it does mean that I would not need to create the interaction between the player and the enemy, like the player walking into the enemy, if I was to go for this approach. If I didn't do, like, you know, the Crash Bandicoot approach where, you know, you walk into an enemy and you take contact damage from them, and most of the time that's fatal, so you'd have to be careful with how you move and stuff. But in most cases, in Spyro, no contact damage occurs. And I say in most cases because there are very extremely specific cases in which contact damage kind of does exist, but it doesn't. And I'd say mostly there's, like, if you can remember from when I played through it, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But if not, then I'll just explain it quickly. In one of the levels in the second hub world, Frozen Altars. No, wait, is it? Hold on. It wasn't Frozen Altars. It was Icy Peak. It was Icy Peak. But in the level Icy Peak, there were the little weird rat things that were holding boxes of TNT that sort of moved towards you quickly, and you just had to avoid them before they exploded. In that particular case, if you just walked straight into the rat holding the TNT, then you would take contact damage. But that's more of a sense of, oh, you're taking damage from the TNT rather than, you know, actually taking damage from the body of the enemy itself. So, you know, interesting case here, but it does make me wonder. So, yeah, for contact damage, we may skip that entirely, and that means that the only way the player will take damage is through attacks from the enemy, or at the very least with enemies, they'll take attacks, like, damage, direct damage from attacks from the enemy instead of, you know, walking into them and taking contact damage. But but, you know, that's... Yeah, that is essentially just... Yeah, cool stuff. So for now, for contact damage, I'm gonna kind of ignore that. So we're gonna kind of ignore this stuff for contact damage for now. Later on, we'll try and sort things out. However, there is another thing that I want to kind of address. And this is a thing that I kind of planted the seed for, or the seeds for, back when I was building the level, back when I was designing the test level. But I haven't fully implemented it, and that being the spikes themselves. So, or the spikes. Why did I say the spikes themselves? I hadn't even mentioned the spikes before this point. So, spikes. So, very pointy. Ouch. Make sense? Cool. Jokes aside, so with the spikes, if you can remember what I did, then cool, but if not, and most likely not, then I will go over things by bringing in a set of the spikes into the third person level, because the test level is for, like, actually testing every, like, you know, having the environment for the player to play in when I eventually get this prototype into people's hands, you know, when that happens. But this is just my general little testing ground for just, you know, like, if I'm testing a new feature or something, then chances are I'm just going to throw it in here and see how it functions in isolation and then test it out further elsewhere. But going to temp, it was in temp objects, we have the temp spikes right here. And of course, if you can remember, then you know, we can also, like, scale it down, scale it up, and so on, but we most likely just leave it alone and leave it as is. Also, I was trying to press S to scale. I was too used to me trying to muck around with Blender last week that I just... God. Anyway, so, the temp spikes. As you can remember, or... Oh, yeah, sorry. If you can remember, that's good. If not, then most likely not. I'm going to explain. So, with the thing here, with the temp spikes, so going over things slowly again, just to sort of reacquaint myself with this, but also reacquaint other people. First things first, we check if the object that's here is the player, so we check for the player interface, and we will know if it is the player because that interface will only exist on the player. So, you know, just putting that out there. No other object will have the player interface. We won't have an enemy or a random block or cube or anything like that that will have the player interface. Only the player will have that interface. Okay? Cool. So if that's true, we set the player target, which is, you know, primarily used to store, like, the player target for, just, like, calling the, like, the get has player been hit, message, like, as a message, but passing in the player target. And what I mean by the message, if you don't remember, is you can essentially call an interface function / method as, like, a message. And what that basically means is that if it exists on the object that you pass in as the target, then it will just execute, like, their implementation of that method. Otherwise, it just won't do anything if you try and passing in an object that it doesn't exist on. Okay? So, first, it will get has player been hit. It will check whether or not the player has been hit. We feed it into this branch. So, if this is true, we don't do anything. If the player hasn't been hit recently, then we set player has been hit through the set has player been hit interface method, which again, message, pass in the player target, and then we're just setting it to true. Here we're just saying, oh, the player has been hit, because we were using it as a means to actually check whether or not this was happening. And then this is set, or everything that happens within this event is set to this player damage handle, which every 0.5 seconds will check whether or not the player is still on there. Or while the player is still on there, it will check if they've been hit. And if they haven't been hit, of course, then it will just say that to true and then say this. And then after 0.5 seconds, it will check again. And what basically happens within the set player has been hit method, and this is in Rider, I believe. So I might be wrong. That's odd. Player character interface. Yep, set player has been hit. So set player has been hit, of course, is a method within the player character interface. That much I've already made clear. In the implementation of this method, so in the implementation method here, so Okay, I forget. No, no, I don't forget, but... Oh, set has player been hit. Set has player been hit. Okay, there we go. So, back up here in the set has player been hit implementation method. We're calling super just for the sake of it. We don't really need to do it here, but just it's just being done here. We set B has player been hit to whatever is passed in. So whether or not it's true or false is dependent on, you know, where it's being called from and what it needs to do. And then if the boolean that's passed in, so if the parameter passed in here is true, which if the player has, you know, been detected as standing on the spikes and they haven't been hit recently, then this is going to be true. So this will be true in that case. We get a timer handle called reset hit handle, and then we set a timer for about a second later, and we call this method called set has been hit false. And what this basically does is that this simply just calls this method again, but passes in false. So in a way, it's kind of recursive, and if you don't know what that means, it just means it will just call it in a loop, or just call it again within itself, basically, but it's not at the same time. Because I did try doing this, or I did try calling itself via the timer, but it doesn't allow you to do that because it only allows like purely void methods without any parameters. So I had to make basically just a regular void method without a parameter to be able to do this. But after 1 second, this method will be called, which will call this method again, but passing in false. It will set this to be false, and then basically this won't be called again in that instance because this is false, and this requires this to be true. Okay, so back into the engine. So when the player, while the player is still on the spikes, every 0.5 seconds, if they haven't been hit, and if they haven't been hit, then set that they've been hit to true, and then this isn't really needed because this does work, though at the moment I probably will just kind of keep it there because we don't actually have any visual feedback for it yet. So yeah, let me think. Oh yeah, no, now I remember. With this object in particular, I made 2 little things. So I have the actual, the box itself that's used, on a physical collision, and only, on hit. But then there's the other thing here, which is the overlap layer, which is another box collision, but rather than being set to block everything, it's just an overlap box. And this is used for the second thing when, you know, the player leaves, the general, small radius of the spikes, where, if the object that left this thing is the player, then we're just clearing this timer. We're no longer checking to see whether or not the player has been hit recently, and we're just doing that. Now, there is an issue that I realize, and hold on. Oh yeah, no. Now I remember. There is an issue that I realized. So, for what I want to do for the spikes, so going back to Clip Studio just to illustrate this. So for what I want to do with the spikes, when the player, you know, steps on spikes, so just say the little sparkle to indicate that it's metallic and sharp. When the player steps on the spike, what I want them to do is I want them to be knocked back slightly. So Like, not like an excessive distance. But, you know, like a little distance. A short little, like, I guess a short little bump up, if that makes sense. That's what I want to do. However, depending on how far the player is knocked up, or that kind of sounds wrong, depending on how far the player is sent flying away from the spikes, this will most likely knock them out of range of the overlap box, which, in a way, would just clear the timer. They wouldn't, it would just kind of reset things. And I know that is the case of, oh, to be fair, it does allow the player like a little bit of a brief moment to walk on the spikes if they just sort of like get knocked up or knocked back a little bit, and then are just able to just continue moving. But at the same time, like if they're not too far, I'm not sure actually. Like at the moment, this might be fine. I might try it with how things work with the spikes at the moment, and then if there are like inherent flaws in the system, then I'll just sort of adjust things to something else that I kind of have in mind. And if you want me to go over like briefly go over what I'm thinking of in terms of how I would want it to work otherwise if this doesn't work. Basically, whenever the player will step on the spikes, what I would want as like a second approach is I would have like essentially a shape trace occur every like 0.5 seconds. You know, same timer as usual, but instead of like, on collision exit, like we'll just check with a shape trace. This may not be the best system, but it could work. So, like in the event that this doesn't work, or in the event that this doesn't detect the player, then it clears its own timer. That's essentially what would happen. But, and again, as I said, that's only if the way that we have things set up at the moment. Oh, sorry about that. That's if the way we have things set up at the moment doesn't work with how I'm wanting to do the spikes. Right. Cool. So now that I have a little bit of an understanding of what I'm wanting to do with these spikes, let's try this again. So, I would need to quickly look at a small thing for knockback because it's been a while. And... To be fair, in a sense, where is it? Where is it? So, hit, normal impulse, brake, hit result. We've got, of course, the blocking here, the timer, the impact point, the impact normal. Okay, right. I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep this in mind, but in the end, if I would probably need to make another interface method within the player interface to, you know, handle this kind of thing. So if we go back into Rider and we go into the player character interface. I need to actually look at things. So we have charge configuration. Right, and then the enemy interface. So TP enemy interface. Oh yeah, damage and right. Okay, now I remember. So okay, all right. So the ad break's about to start. I'm gonna say I'll take my quick little break as usual. But I'm gonna try and think about this over the ad break. So hang tight. I won't be too long, and I'll be right back. So hang in there. Stick around. And we are back. I realized I was on the wrong screen. Whoops. Okay. I have a little bit of an idea. I've let things stew a little bit in my head. One of the things that I had thought about was, of course, making another interface method, specifically for applying the knockback directly. And I guess in a sense that would kind of work. I would need to make, you know, an F vector be the parameter, but I would have to figure things out by ear, like calculating like knockback direction. I mean, it probably just is as simple as just like maybe, you know what, actually I could, right, there's something I want to try. Right, so one thing I need to refresh my memory on first. So, since there is an initial start delay of 0, when I step on this immediately... Right, it doesn't just... Right, okay, so it doesn't just immediately do it. What if I was to make... Canon... This is going to be a horrible idea, but... What if I set initial start delay to -1? I feel like this is going to be a horrible idea, and the reason being is that maybe it's infinite. Or it would just be... Alright, it doesn't... Right. Or if I do it as 0.1 or 0.01. 0.01 could work. Because I want it to be able to just, you know, instantly act on the player if I just sort of like... That doesn't seem right. Oh, wait, actually, actual good idea. Rather than messing around with this stuff, because this is not helping in the way that I thought it would, going to instantly call this Yep, right, perfect. Okay, so stepping on the spikes, or hell, I'd say even walking into them. I don't know if we'd have it so that, like, walking into the spikes causes, like... But at the same time, it would make sense. Like, if we're looking at, say, the Sonic, like, the classic 2D Sonic games, if you have, like, spikes that are, like, oriented like this, and you just walked into them, like, in the 2D Sonic games, you wouldn't get hit by them. Like, you wouldn't take damage from them. And then, of course, if you just jump into them, then you would just take damage from them. But walking into the side of them in the classic Sonic games, that just doesn't happen. So, which, in a way, like, it makes sense in the context of that game, but at the same time, it doesn't make much sense to me. So, I'm going to have it so that if the player even just runs into the spikes, they'll still get knocked back. So that does work, thankfully. So that's first part of it. Second part requires we go back into the code. Going to make our new method within the interface. So U function blueprint native event blueprint callable again as like the other ones, and this is going to be a void. We're going to call this apply knock back, and we're going to pass in an F vector, call this knockback direction, and maybe a float. We'll pass in a float and say knockback force. Though at the same time, I'd say maybe if we're just doing this, then we may as well just have this just be called knockback. Directional knockback force. So directional knockback force. Okay, so simply put, this is what we call when we're applying knockback to the player. So close that, we don't need that open, and I don't need the player stay open at the moment because I'm not explaining things, and I don't need the anim instance open either at the moment because I'm not doing anything new with that. So, yes, so we're going to apply knockback implementation, and we don't need the super call to the base of this method. Yeah, it's a lot of things that I don't need open at the moment. It's quite a few. But who knows? Maybe I'll just need to open them again later down the line and I'll regret everything. But still, remove that. And then, so to outline this, on this end, it will simply be a matter of, so to do get character movement set velocity, and then disable movement. And if you can remember, so amongst all our like methods that we have implemented from the interface, there is this one here called get player move disabled. And this normally only really applies when the player is or has started doing an air dash, because player move player move is disabled in that instance. And so the player controller through the interface checks, if I'm trying to move or do anything else, check if the player movement has been disabled. And if it has been disabled, then just we can't do anything else until that's been re-enabled. In the case of applying the knockback, what I would want to do, of course, is just disable the movement briefly while the player is, being flung back. Because I don't want them to just be able to override whatever velocity has been applied to them. So, just, knock them back, briefly disable movement, then allow them to move again, and then sort of just let them continue moving on and just doing stuff, if that makes sense. So, that's easy to do on this side. I may as well just actually write the stuff in this side of things while I'm at it, because it's literally just like a few small lines. So it's not really necessary to do say we're doing this and then do the other side of things back in the editor. Especially when, we've only just implemented this method here and we haven't compiled the code. So get character movement, velocity, direction knockback force, and then be player Where is it? Why it's right. So air dash. So be air dashed is true. Get disable movement. Okay, now I remember. Right. Get disable player movement is... No, get player move disabled. Get player move disabled is an override here. Return get disable movement. And then get disable movement is... I think it's just a force inline. I can't remember, so... B air dashing, B is stomping. Okay, right. I will need to add on to this with another boolean. So... Right, so... we'll throw this right here at the bottom. So ball B is knocked back. And then in this method here, we're going to add this using the OR operator. So we're going to say OR B is knocked back. So if the player is air dashing, if the player is stomping, or if they're being knocked back, then this returns true. And then I have lost where my implementation method was. It's a lot further down. There we go. Right, so get character movement, velocity, set it to the directional knockback force, and then B is knocked back is equal to true. And then after this, what I want is to set a timer. So set timer for resetting knockback state. So if we add, that should return. Right, there's the method. So, right, set timer. I did make air dash handle its own, like, okay. Although the same result could be achieved by just, you know, using a local variable. So 0.35. And then, so we're going to throw in an F timer handle. We'll call this knockback reset handle. And then we're going to go back to apply knockback. We're going to say get world timer manager dot set handle or set timer. We're going to throw in the knockback reset handle. I need a method specifically for this, so I'm going to go into the protected section. And we're going to say void reset as been knocked. And this basically just says, oh, B is knocked back is just equal to false. So we're going to say reset has been knocked. Oh wait, no, it's this and then they'll go, whoops, this, then reset has been knocked. And then we're going to just say Oh wait, no, I wasn't supposed to do that at all. Whoops. So we're going to have the method, then we're going to have the thingamajiggy. So I'm going to say 0.35 seconds as well. And then we don't want it to... I swear to God, it keeps switching what, like, version of the method it tries to do. Get world. Oh wait, no, I remember now. Reset has been knocked. There we go. Right. I don't know how. Sometimes I occasionally forget this kind of stuff. But it happens. So, and then we set the timer for resetting the knockback state. And then after 0.35 seconds, the player is able to move again. Okay, so that's things basically done on this side of things with the knockback. Now we need to, at the very least, in the case of the spikes, we need to sort things out on how knockback is applied in that case. Because how knockback may be applied may possibly vary depending on, you know, whether or not it spikes, or if it's like an enemy attack that knocks the player back or anything, or just something like that. It could depend. Okay, the editor is open again. And now, in the spikes. So we're going to go back into the spikes object. So set player has been hit. At the moment, this is just, you know, the only thing that happens. These two things are the only thing that happens. Now, I'm going to quickly dig into my files, because there's a thing that I used to use as a standard rule for knockback and whatnot, but this was back in the days of when I used to use Unity, so this may not apply here, or I could just look it up and not have to dig into my folders and whatnot. That's also an option, but I'll quickly say UE5 knock. So instead of that's for knocking the enemy back. So, or in this case, it's for knocking an enemy back. So, hey, I could actually do it this way. So, in actuality, I don't think I need to break the hit result here anymore. Okay, so we're gonna get the target. Though, I do want to see what the whole impact point thing is, because I don't know if that's like the impact point on this object, or if it's generally just the impact point on the other object. Because if it is, like, then... So that's hit actor, hit component, trace start, trace end, location, impact point. So the impact point, get actor location. Enemy position minus player position. So it'd be the player position minus the impact point. And this is just me messing around with this stuff for now because, again, not 100% certain, like, doing it from, like, the object side rather than, you know, or doing it from the hit result on the object side, but... But yes, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to add a float variable, call this knockback multiply, or knockback modifier, and make this a float, and I'm going to say 200, just as like a little test, and then we're going to call... apply knockback. We're going to pass in the player target, and then we're going to pass in what we have here. So again, may not work. This may go a bit horribly, and if so, then I can just tweak things, do things a bit differently. But I say it may go horribly. It's not going to go catastrophically wrong, but we're going to see how this works. Okay. So nothing is happening. Oh wait, no, that's I did not apply it. I did not multiply it. Whoops, multiply. So I want to multiply it by knockback modifier, and then plug this in. Right, that was my fault for completely forgetting that I needed to plug that in. So now that we're multiplying that by 200, we'll see what happens. Okay, kind of odd. So maybe it's how I'm doing it. Wait, huh? What the, wait, huh? What? How? Oh, whoa, okay. Oh, okay. I caught a brief glimpse of that as I was flying off. That was... Wow, okay. So how I'm doing that with the hit result is obviously not where I want it to, So I'm going to get rid of the hip. I mean, in the right world, it would be working as intended. In the right world, it would be working as intended. So get... Okay. Get world location. So we're going to get the world location of the root for this object. Even though that's essentially just the same as getting just the actors, getting the actor location. But we're just going to do it this way. And then... Let's see what happens. We're going to... Oh, okay. Okay, it may also be that... What? Okay. Okay, that's fun. Right, so that's working a bit better, but I think in terms of the modifier, that might be a bit much. So I'm gonna reduce it from 200 to maybe 20. I don't know if this is like things being like, you know, if I wasn't patching this out, this would just be a speedrun strat to get from point A to point B really quickly. But yeah, no, that's silly. That's silly fun stuff. But yeah, we're gonna see what happens if I set it to 20. Who knows? We'll... However, I do want to, like... I do want to get, like, whatever the direction is here, because for some reason, it's not throwing... It is not popping the player up, so... take this... Print string... Oh. Print string... I'm going to convert the vector to string... And we're going to throw this here... Two things unsaved. One of them, I'm assuming, is the spikes within the level itself. Yep. So, when we jump onto the spikes, I do want to see what the Y... Okay, so... Oh, wait, no, that's my issue. That was my main issue. I need to normalize the vector. Normalize. Right. So normalize within a tolerance of 0.000.0001. Plug that in there. And I'm going to plug this into the print string just to see what we get for the normalized vector, because, to be fair, normalizing a vector is probably one of the most important things to do. So now it's being set to this. And the knockback modifier could probably be increased again, so to 200. We'll see what happens. Though it may need to be even greater depending on, you know, what happens. Right, let's see. Okay, so very weirdly enough, right, hold on, let me actually double check things. So Z is never one. Z is never one. That's a bit of a problem. Z is never set to 1. Which, if we remember things, like, Z is, like, our up and down scale, and because it's never, like, consistently set to 1, that might be the reason why things are why the player is never being popped up. So before anything else, I'm gonna delete that thing for converting it to the thing for now. And then, before anything else, I'm going to split the struct pin, and then make a vector. And so we're going to plug the X into the X, we're going to plug the Y into the Y, but for the Z, we're going to set that to... Oh wait, no, actually, Alright, we're gonna do this, we're gonna normalize it, and then we're going to split the struct, and then make vector. and we're not making Vector from Despicable Me. I'm just gonna throw that out there now, chat. We're not doing that, and we're not doing that at all. I'm gonna throw that there, gonna throw that there, and we're gonna leave the Z as 1, so that we're consistently having it poking the player up. And then we're going to multiply that by a knockback modifier. And then, hopefully, this should work. I should also get rid of this, because I'm not using that anymore. So, I'm going to do that. Hopefully, it pops the player up. See, that works. Okay, so there's something weird going on. I think I'll add the scene component. So I'm gonna add a scene component, and this is probably not necessary. So we're gonna call this position point. And this is specifically just going to be used for, this is going to be checking like the position between the enemy and the player. I'm just going to have the calculations be based on that instead of the default scene route, because this is maybe the problem. So we're going to get this, we're going to get world location, and then we're going to normalize it, set Z to 1, multiply this, and then apply the knockback. So why? I do wanna I can draw debug line, I think. So draw debug line. So we're gonna get a line. So we're gonna have it be pure red so we can see it, and have it last for 10 seconds because I want to actually get a good look at it. The line is going to start at the position point, so get location, so get world location. Oh. Okay, so we're going to get world location. I'm also going to move this so it's not in the way. And then line end will be where we calculated, like, this. So we're going to see how this is working out, because this is weird that it's not propping the player up at all. So, strange stuff. Strange things are happening here. Oh! Okay, so that worked on that, in that instance. And that should be working. I think it's because the player isn't, like, in the air. Which... So I wonder if instead of doing what I have been doing, I have to launch the player instead. So... Right, we're going to go back into the code. Going to close the engine. The engine. Close the engine for the time being. Launch character. Direction. Knockback force. Say false. False. And I'm gonna comment this out for the time being while I'm, you know, running a check on this one. Okay, so instead of setting the velocity of the character movement, we're going to launch the character. That is essentially what we're going to do here instead. And then this stuff still happens and so on and so forth, but we're going to try launching the character instead. And if this works, somehow works better, then... So, there we go. Getting this all sorted. But, good lord. The bloody... Oh yeah, I never talked about it the other day when it happened. So they had like the little, the Like a Dragon, the RGG Studio Like a Dragon Direct the other day, where they talked more about Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and they have, like, I suspected that like naval combat and stuff like that was going to be a thing, but like they have a full-on like naval combat system that looks fun to play, and somehow, like, the joke I was making to myself as I was watching this is like, wow, they made it more functional than Skull and Bones. Like, goddamn, it's gonna be so fun. Oh! Okay, so launching works in this case. Okay. Cool! Oh no! Right. So, in this case, launching is better to use for the knockback. So, I don't need the debug line stuff anymore. I'm gonna throw that there. Move this back over. I'm gonna take the knockback modifier and I'm gonna reduce it. So we don't have... Honestly, like, to be fair, that kind of is what the Void is right now, because after a certain extent, this isn't, like, something I've done, this is just what's built into the engine. After falling, like, into the Void for, like, a little bit, then the player object is just deleted. It's just gone. Oh, right, so now that we've adjusted the knockback... Oh. Okay, so setting it to 200, a little too low. Right, this is why we test things. I don't want to set it to 100, I want to set it to 1,000. So, let's set it to 1,000 instead. Okay, so 1,000 might be a bit too much, so we're going to set it to 500. Like, this is all about trying to find a fine point where it feels fair but doesn't feel like it's, you know, doing too little. Okay, so that works pretty well. So spikes work very well. I'm pretty happy with that. It took a little while. It took about, I'd say 40 minutes or so just to iron things out, but that was like going between things, making adjustments based on like, oh, this thing isn't working the way I wanted it to, so we're trying it a different way. And that works just surprisingly well. Um, so now I do, like, with how I've changed the behavior of these spikes now, if you can call it that, I'm gonna go into the test level and I'm going to play from, like, at the top of the wall sliding segment. I want to see what happens when I just step onto the spikes like this. Okay, so from my understanding, at the moment, there is a 1 second delay from when the player is able to, you know, be hit by the spikes again or, you know, take damage again. But I would say if we wanted this to work smoothly, I would need to reduce how much time the player, you know, doesn't take damage for, which may make things a little bit more strict in terms of like trying to get away from spikes or anything that can deal damage and stuff. Right. So, I'll consider reducing things. But that's working. That's working surprisingly well. So the next order of business, I suppose. Let me think. Oh, there was something in my head that I wanted to do, and I've lost it. I should have written it down at the time. I was too focused on this. Okay, I've genuinely forgotten what I was going to do. That's sad. That is genuinely kind of upsetting. So. Come on, let me think. I can get it back into my head. Of course, there is a matter of trying to do the wall slide detection like periodically rather than every single tick. But I can't do that because as I tried before, it didn't work. So, you know, different approaches will have to be considered. Right. Oh gosh. Right. So the main menu, there's nothing that I need to do. This is perfectly fine. Oh yeah. One thing I am wanting to try and fix is the issue that we've come across multiple times before. Where I don't know, it probably will happen in the test level. I need to sort this out. So and I don't know if it was like it definitely wasn't a case of the engine having a bad day, because it has happened in like a packaged build. Oh, there we go. I was waiting for it. Cool. So this is an issue that we've run into before. It doesn't happen too often, but it's an issue that I want to fix, because this could be potentially like very harmful to the overall experience of, you know, people playing the game. That being, when trying to pause the game for whatever reason, it just crashes, and I don't know if it's because I'm pausing the game at the same time as trying to open the UI, and that might be the issue. That might be what's going on, and in that case, I may need to actually sort of change how that's, or what's happening there, just to delay it slightly. Because there's a possibility that stuff happening in the same frame is just kind of getting things mixed up and jumbled up, and that's causing the crash. But I'm going to send and close, and we're going to sort this little issue out, because it's been bugging me for quite some time now, and has happened even when I was just trying to test things like on stream or off stream, or trying to make the package build just to test if this was happening too. So player controller. Right. So if we go down, we have pause the game. And at the moment, this all just happened like within an instant. So like, we add the pause menu to the viewport. We set the input mode to only be, you know, accessible to the to only access the UI. We show the mouse cursor, and then we set pause to be true. Now, this may not be the case. I may be entirely wrong. This may be entirely wrong, but I'm going to try making a little delay method to sort of briefly delay the pause, like just by a small amount, just a smidgen, just to see if this works, because this is kind of frustrating. So we're going to go into the protected section for the player controller. So void delay pause. And then we're going to say set pause equals true, or set pause true. We're going to have that happen here. And then we're going to have F timer handle, pause, handle, and then that's because it's never used. Get world timer manager, set timer, and say pause, handle, this. Let's go player controller, delayed pause, and have it happen like literally 0.00 or 0.01 seconds after, and then delay is false, and so on and so forth. Right. So instead of like the game being paused right in the same instant as it normally would with the UI being added to the viewport. Instead, we're going to add the UI to the viewport, and then after a very minute delay, this is essentially potentially just unnoticeable, we're going to pause the game, and that's essentially what's going to happen. So, I'm gonna compile the code, and I'm gonna run tests again. Because it was a case of, oh, it eventually happens. This thing eventually happens after, like, a lot of fiddling around with, like, just constantly pausing and unpausing and pausing and unpausing and stuff. But we're gonna see if, despite doing the exact same thing that I have been doing, you know, it will actually not crash. Right, so, engine, open, do this. Right, we're gonna go in here again. Wait a minute. There's no way. There's no conceivable... Oh. Oh. Okay. Oh wait, I didn't mean to press F1. I meant to press 1. Okay, so doing that has created a unique problem where even pressing the resume button, that's weird. So, that's so... What? I'm gonna go into blueprints, widgets, I'm gonna go into the pause menu. I'm gonna go into the graph, we're gonna go to where resume is pressed. And we're gonna say... Set game paused, false. We're also gonna print string just to see if this is working, because this is very odd. Very weird, very weird. That's... Okay, so... I may need to experiment with something else, with a different approach. So I'm going to close the engine. I'm going to close the engine again. So I'm going to make another method. I'm going to swap out, like, the call for delayed pause for this. We're going to say void delayed add UI. And I'm going to... Oh, whoops. I'm going to move, or at the very least, I'm going to duplicate this stuff. Throw it in here. I'm going to remove this stuff. And then here, I'm going to comment out this block of the code. I'm going to say... Oops. Set pause. True. We're going to say F timer handle. Add UI handle. And then... Yeah, world timer manager. Set timer. I mean, this probably won't work because the game's being paused in this instant. But we'll see. But this probably won't work. Add UI handle this. Player controller. Delayed add UI. I'm going to say 0.01f. Yes. And then once again, we're going to compile and see what happens. It's definitely an odd thing to happen. Well, I'll be off now. Good luck with the rest of the stream. Thank you for stopping by, Zazel. Have a good rest of your night. Oh wait, that said rest of the code, not rest of the stream, but the same thing applies. I will do what I can. I'm hoping that... oh wait, I paused it. Whoops. Okay, so pausing... Right, that obviously doesn't work. So... It's so weird, because I don't understand why it crashes when it opens the UI. Because it's obvious that the error is coming from the UI, because where it ends is with UMG, and UMG is the thing for, or the framework that serves as basically the baseline for Unreal like, for Unreal's UI. That's essentially what it is. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize it was on average. Shit! Okay, I'm gonna quickly take a little bit of a break. I may be gone longer than I would like, but I'm gonna quickly get a thing. I'll be right back. Right, and we're back. Sorry about that. That was later than I would have hoped, because I didn't even realize that the outbreak was happening because I was so focused on trying to fix things. Okay, so, delaying pausing the game, of course, for some reason causes a funny little issue, and delaying adding the UI just means the UI just... Oh, wait, whoops, I did not mean to do that in OBS. Whoopsie daisy. But delaying adding the UI just means the UI never gets added, so we can't, you know, unpause the game, which is not what we want. So... So I'm going to reset things to as they were before I, you know, added these. I'm going to get rid of them. So... And I'm going to compile again. I'm going to replicate the error again, which means pausing and unpausing quickly. But... Ooh, sorry about that. There we go. Right. So... I need to swap back over to here. I swear, trying to replicate, or at times trying to replicate it is, like, because it's, when it happens, is so infrequent. It's very odd. It's kind of an anomaly, honestly. It's like a big, oh, there we go, perfect. So... Right, so I'm going to go into Opera, I'm going to say, so, Unreal, Editor. Pause the game, UMG. It might be, so... Hmm. I'm looking for stuff, but it's... Right. I reopen the engine. Trying to find out is so... It's such a process. And I know in the end it's going to be worth it, but at the same time... Ooh. So, looking at... Okay, this may not necessarily do anything. I don't know if it's anything to do with the engine itself. It could be, but it probably isn't. But it seems to be so weird. Right. I'm gonna try replicating it again now that I've, changed. Hi, Heater! Right, so unpause, pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause, unpause, pause. If I can replicate, you're so tired, yeah. Have fun with work today. Right. Who knows? I'm just gonna keep holding. This might have actually fixed it. I don't know. I might be wrong. Oh, whoops. I'm stuck. Yeah, that happened. That happened when big things happen. In the adjacent communities. I think... Like, I know the crashes happening were so infrequent in general. I might have fixed it by setting it to a U property. I mean, it's extremely odd if that is just generally the fix. Right, so far, repeatedly pressing it and repeatedly pausing it doesn't seem to be crashing it anymore. So, I think it did fix it. At the very least, that's my opinion. Who knows? I could just be in the middle of doing a thing and then suddenly, boom! It's okay, cool. That is kind of fixed, I guess. Now, thing that I want to sort out, and I'm fairly certain that people will have probably noticed it when I've been testing stuff with the coward enemy before, is, for some reason, it doesn't finish running along the entire path. And I don't know if that's something to do with its behavior. I could take a look at the behavior tree and see what's going on with it. So that's another thing we're going to sort out. We're going to sort out the bit with the stuff with the coward enemy, because I'm kind of confused on that. Alright, so BT, coward enemy. We'll close the project settings because I don't need that there. We're going to look at the one that we have there. And honestly, I'm going to bring this over here so I can properly look at it while I'm doing this. So current state is set to passive, current state is set to cower. So current state is set to cower. And of course, that's used for that. So set state as retreat. But then, when is it? Is state retreat equal to passive? It might have been a thing within that player, within that coward controller. So let's bring them back over here, and whoops. So enemy AI, enemy. Enemies, AI, controllers, coward enemy controller. Set state as passive. Okay, so alright, I think it's definitely in how I've structured this. So going over things again, because it's been a while since I've gone into the blueprint for the coward enemy controller and looked at how this works. But, event detected target, that is based on the AI perception for this controller. And, of course, this is configured with the AI site, or the AI sense site, or the AI site config, with AI sense site being the dominant sense. And then, for detection, it detects enemies, neutrals, and friendlies. And then so on and so forth. And then in the case of the player itself is set as a stimuli source, so that the enemy characters can detect the player, which is the main part of this. So when it detects a target, it gets the sense class for the stimulus, so whatever it detects within that radius. So we check if not only like the stimulus has been successfully sensed from the stimulus hit result or the AI stimulus struct, but also if the class for the stimulus that's detected is the sight sense class. Then we cast a TP enemy first, so check if the pawn that this is controlling is the enemy. Then, if this is successful, then we check if these two conditions are true. So if they both are true, then this returns true, and then we set the enemy state to cower. However, this happens, like, regardless of whether or not it is looking, or regardless of whether or not the AI is within the retreat state. If they can't detect the player anymore, then their state is set to passive. And I think that is the reason why they don't finish the route. So yeah, TP enemy, set state as cower, set state as TP enemy, get. Okay, so target is TP enemy. Right. So there are some adjustments I need to make to the enemy class. So I'm going to go into Rider, we're going to close the engine, and at the moment we don't need the player controller open unless we need to, you know, make tweaks to fix things again. Because while it would be cool if it has been fixed, like the whole issue with the pausing the game, crashing the game, I'm still a bit uncertain as to whether or not it is fully fixed, so we'll find that out. But, and this is a big but, and I cannot lie, sorry about that, TP underscore enemy H and CPP. So at the moment we have set state as passive, set state as attack, set state as cower, and set state as retreat. I don't have a thing for getting the current state. So so I'm trying to think. Right. Okay. So if I remember, yeah, enemy AI states as header file is, or H file is included. Let's say U function blueprint callable. Let's say void. No, not void. I'm gonna say struct. No, not struct. This is an enum. E. I have to check. Can you forward declare an enum? I. Okay, yeah, no, you can't forward declare an enum. I'm pretty sure I looked this up before, and I got the same answer, so... I'm gonna move the enemy AI states thing to the H file. And then down here, I'm gonna enemy AI states, get current state. Get value as enum. Oh, wait, whoops. And this is going to say can't convert this, so unit 8 to return type E enemy AI states. So I'm going to cast this to an E. I'm trying to find out why it's throwing an error. What is it throwing an error for? So no viable function. Cannot convert so to flinker. Ah. Right, this may present an issue. So convert unit 8. Oh wait, hold on. E enemy AI states. Okay. Oh yeah, no, I forgot because I'm literally doing the same up here, converting this enum value to the uint8 to send to the blackboard. So this is also just basically the same logic, but it's just reversing the conversion. Okay, so this method gets the enum value as a uint8. We're converting it back into the enemy AI states enum. Get compile time. Oh, it's just being silly. That's being silly. I don't know why it does that sometimes, where it's not an actual error. It's just that, oh, it just can't get the compile time verbosity. What is going on with that? That's so weird. Such an odd thing to have happen. Right, so now that we've sorted that out, I'm going to go back into the engine, throw this back in here. Oh, whoops. And then as the enemy, we're going to say get current state. Now return what our enemy's current state is. We're gonna. That's not it. Equal enum. We're gonna check if it is retreating. Gonna get branch. And I'm gonna invert it. I'm gonna say not Boolean. So if the current state is not retreat, this will be true, and we're gonna set the state as passive. Okay. So now if we go back into the blueprint, I'm going to say follow retreat route here. Yep, there we go. That's it. Whoops. Right, so that's checking that. So cast TP enemy, set value as ball. Yeah, right. So now there shouldn't be any interruptions in the enemy like retreating to the end of its retreat path. So if we go here, walk close enough to it, there we go, and now it just runs to the end of its path. And because it's already at the end of its path, it won't be able to retreat anymore. Cool. And then we can just charge into it and defeat it. There we go. Enemy's gone. So that's another small little problem fixed with the enemy. It will now actually run to the end of the path that it's supposed to retreat along. Always nice. Always a nice thing to have happen. So that thing is working well. Also, for people who may have potentially joined now or recently, just to go over things again from earlier, we have contact damage with spikes happening now. It could be a bit, to be fair, I could adjust this to, oh, that's weird. But yeah, contact damage with spikes works, except for some cases where it just doesn't do it for some reason, which is weird. We've hopefully fixed the problem with the pause menu, or pausing the game crashing the game. I'm assuming it has, but I don't know 100% for certain. I'm trying to replicate it and see if it happens again. But, you know, it doesn't happen. And we have the coward enemy actually properly retreating now. Cool. I'm trying to think, there was another thing I wanted to look up. Oh yeah, saving stuff in Unreal. So I know it's probably more of like an advanced topic rather than a whole like you do it like at an early stage kind of thing. So I'm gonna quickly look. Save. Okay, there's a Right, there's a few videos on this. Some short, some long. And by long I mean about 50 minutes long. Like, I want to look at the general gist of things, so... Just trying to figure out how it works. Does save game exist? Okay. Right. So I'm gonna make a objects, tools. I guess this exists in tools. Data, save, system, and I'm gonna make a little temporary, I guess it would be an actor, I'm not sure. Or it would be an MDU object. Oh wait, there's an actual class for this. Save game. Okay. So this is something new this is something I haven't delved into in Unreal. But there's a specific object class made for this. This isn't like Unity where you had, like, where it was possible to make like a save system, but you had to build that up from scratch. You had to essentially, like, take whatever you wanted to save and like save that to a file essentially with a method that you build manually rather than, you know, have things exist like this. It's weird. It's so strange. So the tooltip says, this class acts as a base class for a save game object that can be used to save state about the game. When you create your own save game subclass, you would add member variables for the information you want to save. Then when you want to save a game, create an instance of this object using create save game object. Fill in the data and use save game to slot, providing a slot name. To load the game, you then just use load game from slot and read the data from the resulting object. Okay. So save game temp, that's what it's going to be called. So oh, whoops. Save game to slot. Does save game exist? Oh, whoops. Whoopsie daisy. That video is still going on in the background, isn't it? There it is. Right, right. Gosh. Okay, so I think I understand things. Okay, so the save game object itself is used to store the data that you want to save. So if I wanted to say, like, create a variable, like, call it player state, and I want to make this a player state object reference, then la-di-da-di-da, I can save it like that. And then if I go back into the code, oh wait, no, first things first, I'm gonna make this like a little test input. So go to input action. We're gonna go IA underscore temp save, and then I'm gonna make another one for input action IA underscore temp load. Then I'm gonna go into this, into the mapping context. I'm gonna add one. This is gonna be IA temp save. What did I set test collectible to? I set it to 2. I'm gonna get rid of this one because I don't need that anymore. It's gonna be 2 on the keyboard for temp save, and for temp load, it's gonna be 3 on the keyboard. Okay, right. So I only want this to happen when it's pressed, not like as it's just being continuously held. And then same for temp load. This is just gonna no wait, no, I don't want there to be an actual right. I only want there to be temp save. Okay, cool. So gonna do that there. And now we're gonna go into the player controller and do that stuff. So we're gonna close the editor. And this is kind of a new realm for me because I've never done, like, I've never meddled with saving in Unreal. I've never done anything along these lines, so it's kind of a bit, it's a very much an unknown for me. Oh gosh. Gosh. Oh yeah, Tuesday's going to be a crazy day. I was going to say crazy's going to be a Tuesday day. The fuck? But Tuesday's going to be a crazy day, considering the fact that Hatsune Miku gets added to Fortnite. Like, that's gonna be big day for a lot of people. Big day for Miku fans and big day for people who are memeing on Miku being in Fortnite for the longest time. And in so many ways, people's little like, oh, like the like dream like squad in Fortnite is just coming true. It's great. Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry here. But yeah, but to be fair, Dream Squad matchups sound better. No. Ideal squad match. Ah! Wish lists. I'm just gonna say wish lists. Squad wish lists. There we go. There we go. But yeah, no. Like, a lot of people who have made those, like, meme pictures of, like, Miku being... It was like a jump scare. To be fair, I'll try and avoid saying it in that way for, like, at least a day or two. And then, when you've all but forgotten about it, I'm gonna say... Hita, the dream team. Not to be a dick, but just because it would be funny. I think it would be very funny. Anyway, what was I doing? Oh yeah, no, player controller. Right. Team on the end is even worse because that's the name of him and the other two friends of his. It's horrible. Edit anywhere. It only. Test inputs, meta, allow private access equals true. Did I get a true? Test, save, action. If people sad. Wait, why does People Sad have a Santa hat? Why does he have a Santa hat? Who did this? Someone Christmasified my Peepo Sad. Oh wait, I found kind of a funny for you. Oh wait, no, answer. Heater, answer. Before I send the funny to you. What up? I think I do. I should do. Oh yeah, right, so continuing. I found a funny thing. You might get a kick out of this. I know it's like about stuff, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway. So I have sent it in DMs here. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I do have stuff set up. I'm gonna try. I might be wrong in this. Oh wait, that's. Oh, there we go. Ricky. I love the little snug Ricky. I love it a lot. Thumbs up. Upert exp. Hold on. Oh, they're all Christmas. Okay, that one works in like the chat, but not on the actual like. That's weird. But anyway, test save action, and then I think 7TV changes their global emotes to Christmas ones during the whole. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Right, so we're gonna go into protected and say U function. Void temp save. So we're gonna give this a bit of a go. Right. So I don't think the way too dank one works because you have that as an emote, so... oh, right. Hey, I'm learning stuff. Some stuff. Rat jam! I've got rat jam! Why is it a pirate? There we go. Have Marjama to watch over you. Right, so, I need to remember. Oh yeah, no. Now I remember. Right, so in terms of saving... So we've got... think... So player controller... Ah, okay. I'm going to need to do some finagling with some of the variables to get this to work in the way that I want it to. Also, ad break starts in a few minutes. So let me think. Right. I may need to actually... Right, so I'm going to look at the video that I was looking at again. So save game. Save game exists. Whew. Think, brain, think! Think! Grr. Right. Okay, I'm gonna... Because the outbreak is about to start, I'm gonna pop the sign up. I'm gonna quickly take a little break. Catch you in a few moments, just hang tight. I'd already muted myself. Whoops. But yeah, I won't be too long. everyone back. Hello. So, from my understanding, or I say my understanding, from my memory, so I open up the player H and CPP files. That's not it. Right, init ability actor info. So init ability actor info. So ATP player state. So let me think. If I was to say, did I made my, yep, temp save. So if I go down to where temp save is, alright, I can use get player state, cool. So I don't need to do anything in here. I also went to the wrong screen, I realized, whoops. Oop, right. So, so I can use get player state to do what I need here. So, now, I have to wonder, so, class U save game. Yep, save game is a U object, or is a, yeah. You know what I mean. I'm not sure if I want Bentley's Outpost to be the music that plays, because that's kind of like... I paused you! Goddamn. It's very repetitive. I'll go Desert Ruins. Yeah. Right. Anywho. So I'm gonna need a U property. Edit anywhere. U save game. Save game class. Oh wait, no, I've already named that save game class. That's just going to be called save game object. Oh wait, that needs to be a pointer. Whoopsie daisy. Right, so according to the video, Ouch, 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 ouch. So we have enhanced input, find action, test save action, E trigger event triggered. So this. Temp save is there. Cool. So I'm going to do another method here. So it's going to be void save the game. And it's going to take in a ftext, I think. Slot name. Oh, why is it doing it here? That was weird. Also, I'm going to move these up because there's them being underneath the setup input component is kind of annoying. It bugs me a little bit. It's not like, the worst thing ever, but it's mildly frustrating. So, temp save, we're simply going to call save the game. And we're going to call this, slot 1. Okay, I might be wrong. Oh, wait a moment. I'm gonna first comment that out. There's something I need to actually double check. Within the editor itself first. Alright. Editor is open. Right. So. Oh yeah, no. Now I remember. I was checking a thing. I'm just going to go into any old blueprint. So I'm going to go into the player's blueprint. And I'm going to check. Okay, so I'm going to make a temporary variable, so test. And this is going to be string. So it's not an f name, it's not an f text, it's an f string. Right, cool, now I know. So I'm going to make it an f string. Whoops. be an F string. And I'm going to change that to F string so the signature's the same. Back to cross-referencing. So right, so there is creating save games. Well, that's another video I'm having to look at for stuff. It might be U gameplay statics. Hold on. So U gameplay statics, which I haven't declared here, does save game exist? Cool. Right. I figured it out. So slot name, user index 0. So this should return a boolean. So I can get rid of the second video that I found. And then I'm gonna if so we're checking if the save game does exist. And I'm gonna do UE engine add on-screen debug message. So color red. Let's say saving game data, because you know this is going to be an easy way of actually checking this. And then otherwise we're going to need an else as well, so we can create a a new instance of the save game if it doesn't already exist within a slot name. So this is kind of looking, it does kind of look a little bit confusing at the moment, but it's not too bad. Trying to open a thing, it's so annoying how much the hands slip. But yeah, that aside, did I... So load save... So what it does is... I'm assuming this is also a U gameplay statics method that I'm needing for the next bit, so... U gameplay statics load data from slot out save data. So this is oh no, it's load game from slot. Whoops. Load game from slot. So, oh, sorry about that. Anyway, so load game from slot. We need a variable for this. So, oh wait, no, I already made a variable for this. It's called save game. Right. So save game is thrown in there, and believe we just throw in the slot name. So slot name. Wait, hold on. Okay, I was wrong. I need to do so. Save game equals u gameplay static. So it was slot name and then user index. So that is done there. Otherwise, if we don't have a save game within that slot, we create a new save game object, which is done by doing u gameplay statics create save game object. And we use the save game class as the thing that we're creating a save game from. And this was just going to be save game equals u gameplay statics create save game object. Cool. Right. However, now I realize that there is a problem. I only made the save game object within Blueprint, and what I need is to be able to access a specific version of, like, a specific, like subclass, child class of that original thing to basically, you know, save the player state to it. So, for now, I'm going to compile, and I need to make the thingamajiggy, I need to make the class. So, hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Right. Editor is opening. Cool. Right. Right. So now that I've done that, oh, whoops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, cool. So C++ classes, public, animation. I'm gonna make a new class. The base it off the save game. And we're going to call it game save data. I'm going to add it to a new folder within the public section. We're going to call it data. Right. I will not compile the code yet. And that's already there. Cool. Right. Now close the engine, Close the player character because I don't need it, and close the enemy because we're not using that anymore. Or not at the moment. So game save data.h, and then we have the. I mean, to be fair, I don't think we need the C++ file. So public, private, public protected, private, public, because that's how I format things most of the time. And then in the private, to be fair, I want this to be public in this case, so not player start, player state. So player state, and then public, player state, a player state, player state. Oh, right. U property. I guess edit anywhere? I'm not sure. Cool. Right, so and then edit anywhere. I don't know if I want blueprint rewrite or blueprint read only. I'll say blueprint read only. Oh, why did I missed a T apparently. Whoops. So player state's there. Then in the player controller. A game state, no game, no, it's U game save data. U game. Right, so cast that to be able to access it, and then player, so game save, player state equals get player state of type, I guess a player state. Right, so that's there. And then I think it's... Hold on, let me scroll forward. And then we save the game to the slot. So it's another U gameplay statics. Save game to slot. And then we pass in the game save. Oh wait, the save game. And we pass in the slot name. And then we pass in the index, which is 0. So what about when things are loaded? Okay, right. Next part of this is now to actually load it. So, say, void load the game f string slot name. I'm gonna make this, and it's gonna appear under the... Never mind, it didn't. Cool. So load the game is there, and we're gonna see if oh yeah, I should also say if game save null pointer, then return. I don't want anything to happen here if that's the case. So checking if gameplay statics does save game exist, slot name 0, and again same as earlier, but instead we're gonna say so yeah, it's a save game pointer saved game equal or loaded save equals gameplay statics load game from slot. So we're doing that, load game from slot, and we again throw in the slot name and the index, which is 0, and then we're going to cast it to a game save data. Game save equals cast game save data. If game save is a null pointer, then we don't want to do anything here, so return. Otherwise, so player state equals game save player state. And I think that's pretty much it. Cool, right. And I want this to happen in begin play. Where are you? There we go. Load the game. And we're going to call this slot... I think I called just... slot 1. Yeah. There we go. Just the two words, slot 1, just combined. Right, let's give this all a test. As I said, this is just kind of new for me, so we're going to see if this actually does work. Build failed. Warning. Oh, wait. Player controller 192. Okay, interesting, interesting. Oh. Whoops. I forgot to... Right, that was kind of a small little oversight on my part. Whoops. What? Attempting to cast an incomplete type? Okay, I never include player state here. Whoops. That's another thing. So, include player state. I don't know. So, include player state. Was the use of undefined type a player state? What do you mean? Concerning. This is happening within the player controller, so this is currently isolated to the player controller. Oh. There was actually no player state variable, as far as I'm aware. I'll keep one. I'll comment out the other. See what happens. Okay, stacks. Attempting to cast to an incomplete type. Right, so let's... We'll see what happens when we compile this. If it works, then it's definitely those two, or one of those two lines. Right, it was one of those two lines. Cool. Gosh. Right, so that of course did compile. So let's see, what happens if I try compiling it with this line left intact? If it works here, then it's how I set up that other line. Okay, so it's the other line. It's the other line. Ah, God. Right, so it's saying that apparently I'm casting it to an incomplete type. So right. Hold on. Um, oh wait, I don't even need to use that. I just need to say player state. I was so silly. What the hell? That was so silly of me, but we found it. We got it. Right. Okay, so I need to actually set it up in the input mapping context first. So game input imc. Oh wait, I already did, didn't I? Wait. Oh wait, I didn't save it. So I did not save the actual. Whoops. Input action ia underscore save. No, temp save. Right, that was a little bit of an error on my part. Right, temp save. Right, there we go. That's already set there. Cool. Save that. Then go into the player, the player controller, and then where is oh wait, I forgot. It's in test inputs. Right. So at the moment, we're going to look for player state. I'm going to go into details. At the moment, cheese count and fruit count are 0. Fruit map, cheese map are empty. So we have these. We have temp obj 1, temp obj 2. I'm going to press 2 to save. Hold on. Wait. Let me see. I did bind it to that. I think I... Okay. Oh yeah, no, that's because the save data didn't exist. Okay, cool. I should have added an on-screen debug message for when it didn't exist. Okay, that was a bit silly of me, admittedly, but oh well. Right, so now we do that. And let's look at... Okay, that didn't work. I might be misunderstanding how this works. Then again, I need to actually double check that saving is working. So, test save is temp save. Yep, that's happening. That's definitely happening. Then add this line here, or take this line, copy it, paste it. Oh wait, I never set the save game class. I just realized I never set the save game class. That's why it wasn't working. Okay, small oversight on my part, but we should be able to test this properly. Right. And I'm going to make a blueprint based on the game save data class that I made. BP underscore game save data. Put that there. Then in the player controller, save game class, BP game save data. I realized I also didn't go back into the thing. Whoops. Right. So now press 2. That works. I haven't picked anything up. So we're gonna keep an eye on the player state. Okay, that's... It's doing the save like the save game stuff, but it's not saving the actual... Okay, right. Right. There may be a bit more that I need to look into for this. But I'm going to leave that for another time. So, yeah. To everyone who showed up and everyone watching things back, whether it's here on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on when you're watching this, thank you ever so much for being here and showing up today. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing yet because there's another break stream, but I will figure it out before I go live, and you'll find out when I figure it out. But anyway, again, thank you ever so much.